Well, hi there, Patriot. How you
Hello,
doing today?
hello. Good to see you, sir.
Good
Long
to
time
see
no
you.
see ya.
I know it's been forever. I hope your holidays went well.
Yeah, yeah. I actually sometimes I get depressed during not really depressed. I just am like, ugh, holidays. I like to treat every day the same. Sometimes just like, ugh, I have to put extra energy into things. But this year I didn't have that feeling. I don't know. It's just a
Yeah,
feeling that comes over me sometimes. And this year I didn't have that at all. I actually just
yeah.
really enjoyed my time with my family and I don't know. Maybe it's because things are going well in my life in general. Who knows? I just was in a good
Yeah.
mood. I had good holidays. How about you? How were your
Well, same
holidays?
here. It was just a bunch of families. I turned 35 this year on December 19th, so that was a,
Oh,
a big
you're
moment.
just a baby.
I know, a little baby. But I realized something. 35 is a good age. You're not super young, but you're not super old yet. You're a good middle area. But I also realized 35 is when you actually appreciate getting socks. Like, oh my gosh, I love getting socks and I love getting clothes. That's like the best thing ever.
I get it. I concur. Except my son is an exception. He wants socks. He's a sockaholic. I mean, I like the craziest socks you can get.
Yeah.
Since he was very young, he's just always liked socks, and it's partly because he's an athlete and he's bold, and he'll just wear whatever socks when he's out on the
Mhm.
basketball court or whatever.
Mhm.
so, so he
Right.
yes, normally kids don't want clothes; they want toys and gadgets, but
Yeah.
socks is an easy get for my son. All right,
Awesome.
so I'm going
Here's
to
my
hand this
question.
off to you. Wait, go ahead.
Here's my question for you.
All right.
What is a republic in your words?
Well, I am a little bit prepped for this because I just listened to a sermon
Mhm.
by uh, a guy that I discovered this year, a guy who's been a pastor of his church since 1975, and I
Ooh.
just discovered him this year, and I've been binge watching his sermons and messages. And just yesterday, I listened to a sermon that he delivered about 5 or 6 months ago, and it was called "The Christian Voter." So
Mm.
it was ahead of the midterm. So he was being pertinent, and he did a real nice historical breakdown of how our government systems have come to be, how our systems, essentially the three primary types of governments: monarchies, democracies, and republics. And he broke down how what a republic is regarding or um, comparing it to different church structures. So the
Mm.
Catholic Church would be the closest to a monarchy, right? The Catholic Church
Mm.
is like
Yeah.
a monarchy. Congregational style churches essentially are, independent bodies, right? A congregational style of a church is an independent body, so they're the closest to democracies, where just everybody kind of votes. And then a republic is Presbyterianism is closer to the republic, and so the people of the Presbyterian Church do vote on certain things, but they don't vote on everything. And the main thing that in the Presbyterian Church that they vote on is their elders. And so the people vote for their leaders, they vote for the elders, and then the elders make the decisions. And so
Mhm.
that is the
Right.
closest to a republic form of government. The people aren't
Right.
really choosing the minutia, all the little details. They're choosing those representatives
Right.
who will make those decisions. So they have to determine who are the most qualified representatives.
Great
So that's
segue.
there. That's a
Here,
republic, right?
great segue. Here's why I'm asking this. Today, with my government class, I had my student compare the democracies found in ancient Greece to the republic we have today. And there's a big difference. You had forms of democracy in ancient Greece, but it wasn't a republic. And the reason why it wasn't a republic is because not everyone had their voice heard. If you were a woman, you can't vote. If you were a slave, nope. If you were a man without land, if you were not considered a citizen, you couldn't vote, especially if you were in Athens. And if you were in Sparta, no, there's no such thing as voting in Sparta, right? But the difference is in America, you have an action called democracy. The action is the ability to debate, to analyze, to argue and then vote on your ideas. But a republic is one step further. A republic ensures that everyone's voice is represented. Whether you're in Rhode Island or Texas, everyone's voice is represented. And that's the lead into the main topic for tonight, the House.
Tonight, you mean this morning?
Well, yes. Sorry, this morning. This is a pre-record, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, by the way, everyone, we are not live this morning, Friday. It is Thursday night where we were pre-recording. All right, go ahead.
It's a little dark here, as you can tell. That's the lead-in to the House of Representatives. The House, in my opinion, is where you see the battles, the rough and tumble, the people in the trenches, do we can get out. Okay. The Senate, in my view, is more of the bougie upper class type of chamber. 2 people each state, no matter what. But in the House, things fluctuate constantly. It's always moving, always fluid. That's how it's supposed to be. The House is supposed to be the place where it is rife with debate. It's supposed to be filled with passionate arguments, debates, voting, and the people there are chosen by the districts within the state.
It's the branch of government that's closest to the people.
Exactly.
Right? It's the branch of government that is, yeah, go ahead.
Right. And the people in the districts who represent the districts change constantly because it's based off of population. Right. And so that's how it's supposed to be. But over time, you started having these creatures called rhinos, Republicans in named only. You have these establishment creatures that just enjoy being in that position of power. They don't want to leave. They don't want to give up their power. So they'll be politicians and they'll do whatever they have to do to appease, to maintain.
Right, I gotta cut. You can continue here in a second, but I gotta cut straight to the chase. So is Donald Trump going to be the next Speaker of the House?
Dude, honestly, I would love to see that. I doubt that'll actually happen, but that would be hilarious to see the State of the Union address.
It's bold of Matt Gaetz
with the demented potato in the front, right? The corrupt she-wolf, and then DJT, right? That'd be hilarious.
That would be amazing.
But reality, I don't know. But here's the thing, though. Something has happened recently. Something big. What's happened recently is you have Democrats, you have Republicans, you might have a couple independents, but now you have a fourth group of people. These fourth group of people I would call patriots. People who are young, they have that fire, and they actually want to represent their constituents. They actually want to follow through with what they campaigned on. Shocker, it's a new idea, right? You actually want to serve your people. But the problem is these small group of red-blooded patriots, they don't fall in line. They don't shut up in color. They don't want to follow these swamp-like rules. Instead, they dare to speak their mind. They dare to have their own view. But in doing so, that's caused one person to not get elected for what, 10 times now? 11.
As of the recording of this, there have been 11 votes for Speaker of the House. First time in over 100 years that they've had that many votes on a Speaker of the House. It's like 1859 or something. Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel, regardless of what side you're on, regardless of what you want to happen, this is historical. The fact that you have a small group of patriots who are holding the line, so to speak, who simply just want to ensure these in power will be held accountable, who do not want to see the American taxpayers get screwed over time and time again, who actually want to represent their constituents instead of just being in power. And so no matter what happens, this is the type of house that I've always wanted to see. And the funny part is, when you look at other, so-called conservatives who are saying, guys, just stop dividing us, stop fighting, just sit down, shut up, just go with the flow, okay? The problem is they seem shocked when there's actual debates going on. they seem shocked that there's actually people in the House that are fighting. And to me, I'm like, well, that's how it's supposed to be.
Well, I was trying to ask. I was trying to formulate a kind of a devil's advocate question, but you're answering it. You've already answered any of the questions that I was trying to formulate.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. So I'm with you on. I think, well, aside from it being historic, because we've been watching historic things happen like a lot in the last 6 years, right? The first non-politician to be elected president in 2016, right? Pretty much the first complete political outsider to shatter the veneer, and he changed things forever, right? It was not, it wasn't just, I mean, the deep state or the ruling class, right? That's what it is. Like, it's the ruling class wants it to go away. The ruling class wants that to be a one-off, and for everybody, forget about that, forget that. Let's go get back to where we were before that.
Right.
That can't happen. Will never happen. And so that happened, and it set in order a chain of events that we're still witnessing. Like, obviously that we will continue to witness with the Supreme Court constantly, just really good things coming out of the Supreme Court. And now this, because as I guess it's Dr. Steve Turley, who you and I are both fans of, has made the point that the Maga movement is the largest political movement in history, right? It's the largest political movement in the history of the world ever, right? And this is still that. It's that small group. It's funny how it's the largest political movement, but there's only a small contingent as of yet in the Congress, right? Because it's been the uniparty, right? The problem is not Republicans versus Democrats; it's elites versus the people.
Exactly.
Right? Elites versus the people, and now we have some of the people that actually have won some power. We hoped in the midterms there would be a whole lot more. We hoped that this would be like 60 people holding out, and it's only 20 people holding out. But the fact that we have enough in that position to hold out, to get people's attention, and to force negotiations, right? Kevin McCarthy very well could be, right? He may end up being the guy, but it's only after he makes very real concessions that he did not want to make.
And
concessions that he would never have wanted to make.
Right. And here's the thing. These few red-blooded patriots like Matt Gaetz, Lowen Bober, Chip Roy, these guys are open to negotiation. They are. The problem is they've made very clear, here's what we're going to hold you accountable to. And so far, McCarthy's like, no, I will not negotiate. And they're like, well, fine. Well, then we're not going to vote.
Well, tell me what you think about like the Newt Gingrich, Trey Gowdy, the Sean Hannitys, like the narrative that these guys that, we've tended to kind of think we're on, the right side of things, all kind of coming out in attack mode, or right, that the narrative is, oh, it's so embarrassing. Oh, the Republicans are just out of control. I'm like, no, this is exactly what was supposed to happen.
Right.
It would have been worse if everybody just jumped into lockstep, right? If everybody just fell into lockstep. Okay, now what are we supposed to do? Now we're new here in Washington. What has it always been like? Oh, so we're just supposed to go along, leading us by our noses? No. We need. The problem is the status quo. Right. This is not what we want. We need change. And I'll let you answer my question. I did ask a question there a second ago, but it is, and this is what the first thing that popped into my head when you think about it's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, however many are holding out and not voting for McCarthy. It has been small movements that have changed the world. It has been small things that you have to start small. It has to start small. It's like Jesus picked 12 guys, right? And then now there's billions, right? So it always starts small, and this is a very good sign. So tell me what you think about the more establishment people and what they've been saying about.
I think there are two groups of those people. The first group are the actual swamp creature rhinos that want to maintain power no matter what. But the other group of people are decent people in the Republican field that are sick and tired of seeing our party be divided. They want us to just be unified and move forward. But the thing is, this division, so to speak, is a good thing. These group of people who some may call holdouts, they're just ruining the party. They're just being so childish. That's what we need. Because if you actually want to see real progress, if you want to see a Republican Party that actually has teeth, that will actually fight for the people and not their pocketbook, the only way it's going to happen is if you have small group of people who do not care about how you feel. They were elected by their people and they will fight for their people. And of course, this topic goes into my stance on term limits. Term limits could solve so many problems. And it also brings into it the question of why the heck was that omnibus bill passed by both parties? Why? It should have never been passed by Republicans, but it was. And did nothing for the American people. I mean, you see McCarthy clearly saying one thing and then doing something completely opposite. We don't need that. We need people who will actually do what they say and say what they do. So again, I don't expect people to agree with my view. I'm not saying that Bober or Gates are perfect people. No, not at all. But what I'm saying is they at least have the courage and perseverance to stand up and say, no, I will not bow to you. I will not shut up in color. I'm going to stand my ground and defend my people. And if we get more of that, we're good.
I think I'm glad you brought up the omnibus because that popped into my head as well. I think that fueled this. I think that added, if that didn't happen the way it happened, this might not have even happened, right? I think that omnibus bill was like, wait, what? What on earth are you doing? You're essentially giving away basically the power of the Congress, right? The purse strings, right? The power of the Congress is to budget, right? To vote budgets into law, or to pass budgets, and then to pass an omnibus that essentially passes all those budgets for a year. A Congress is only a 2-year session, so
right.
Half of their ability of a Republican Congress has been basically signed out from under the new Congress, right? The rug pulled out from under them. So I would, if I had just been elected, I would have been so irate. And I guarantee you, some of these holdouts, that's the very thing in their mind. It's like, oh, McCarthy, no chance. But what about, so I like to bounce some things off of you. What about the theory or the possibility, or actually maybe the question is, what do you think the possibility is that the Democrats could pull some defectors over and vote and get to 218 for a Democrat to be speaker?
To be honest with you, the thing is, even if that happens, you're still going to have those group of patriots that are not going to shut up. They're still going to keep fighting.
In other words, it doesn't matter who's the speaker.
I mean, like, of course it doesn't matter, but at the same time, it's like it does, but it kind of doesn't, because at the end of the day, God's in charge. At the end of the day, you're still going to have those patriots who are going to hold people to the fire, who are going to speak up, and they're not going to back down. And that's the beautiful thing about a republic. It was the people that voted them in. They weren't chosen by the royal crown. No, they were elected by their people. And as long as that keeps happening, they're still going to be there, and they'll be a massive thorn in the establishment side.
That's an incredible point. I think that's actually, the brilliance of this is when you have such a closely divided House, it's that small group that's really the rudder, right? It's that small group that's going to act as the rudder. It's the small thing that was, right? Just like, it's a scriptural principle that it's a small thing, like the tongue guides the entire your tongue, who doesn't tame the tongue, right? The tongue is the most powerful thing. It's a small part of the body, yet it's the most powerful thing, just like the rudder of a ship. And so this small contingent are acting as a rudder right now. And that's the historic thing that's happening. And so interesting times we live in.
I love seeing people who don't back down. I've always loved seeing that. And as you mentioned, the past couple of years, slowly but surely, we are seeing the people rise up and become the people versus the elite. That's what we're going to. And, I don't know what's going to happen next week, next month, next year. All I know is that the status quo is long gone. Yeah. The old guard, the always doing things, that's done.
I have a question for you. So there's one of the, I guess, probably the main debate on the right side that's going on right now for the House, since that's the one House that the Republicans are now in control of, arguably in control of. What's more important, right? This is the debate. Is it investigations or policy? Right? Is it investigations or legislation? What should they be focusing their energies on? The argument is investigations waste money and don't really solve anything, don't get anything done. We need to change, but policy is how you affect the country. But there's pluses and minuses to both of those. So what would you say?
Well, that's a good point. Policies do impact the country. I'm looking at it from the view of the people. The people are disheartened. Why is it that I can get arrested for doing something that's very meaningless, yet these establishment cronies committed horrible crimes? People died because of them, and they're not in prison. So when the people hear words like, we will hold these criminals accountable, we will bring them to face the music, so to speak. When the people hear that, that gives them hope. It's like, finally, there's some level of accountability. Finally, these people who were chosen by a brain-dead potato, or who were just put in a position throughout the executive branch, they will be held accountable. And that's the beauty of our country. You have a system set in place that even if you may not like who's in charge in the executive branch, you have a legislative branch that's chosen by the people, and then you have a judicial branch that holds everyone accountable. And so if all else fails at the federal level, then you have the states.
So
that's where I stand.
What was your answer? Which is more important?
Well, the answer is I lean more towards holding people accountable.
Which be investigations.
Yes. Okay. Actual, like real, tangible things, not just dog and pony shows. We've seen enough of that.
Well, in my heart of hearts, I'm inclined to agree, because policy, anything that a conservative or Republican Congress comes up with, it's not going to get through the Senate. It's not going to get across the president's desk, right? It's going to get, even if it does get approved in the Senate, it'll get vetoed. Anything that we would want to happen, anything that's going to be of significance, if you only have one house, or, if you don't have the Senate, at least, and even a supermajority to override vetoes, right? Your policies, it's just it's kind of going through the motions, right? We already have a bunch of policies that we know are good, but if we spend our energies exposing more and more of the corruption and the abuse of our institutions, gosh, I mean, and I understand. Go ahead.
To be fair, maybe for the next 2 years, investigations. And once DJT becomes president again, then policies.
All right. So you're going there.
Maybe that could be a good balance.
So is he going to be president again?
I personally hope so.
I think he should be. I think it would actually.
Who will be his VP? That's up for debate. But I think he absolutely needs to be the president because no one else, in my opinion, no one else can fill that position right now. And that's what we need right now.
I don't want to say anything negative about. I mean, Donald Trump. There's plenty of negative that he brings upon himself.
Oh, of course.
But he's such a polarizing figure. I do think it would be the best thing. I do think it would be the best thing because after 4 years of Biden, right? He will have so much to run on, right? He already has a record, right? He's like, it'll be unprecedented for a challenger going up against an incumbent, but the challenger has a better track record already than the incumbent, right? It's like Donald Trump will be the challenger and Biden would be the incumbent if it ends up being Biden. And there's just all I can say is there would be no debates again. They would back out of the debates. They would not address any issues, and then they would finagle.
Here's the thing, Michael. I've heard this argument a lot, and I get it. I've heard the argument that Trump is not presidential. He's not that presidential figure we want people looked up to. Honestly, I get that to a certain extent, but then my question is, well, what is presidential? Is it covering up scandals? Is that presidential? Is it sending our boys to endless wars? Is that presidential? Is giving billions of dollars to countries that we should have no business being in? Is that presidential? Oh, no. Here we go. Forcing Americans to give in to a healthcare system that's broken. Is that presidential? What is it? So with DJT, he became president and he ran a country like a business. Was he a jerk at times? Yes. Did he say mean things? Yes. But did he lead our country in the right direction? Finally? Yes. And as flawed as he is, he opened up the floodgates. And now people are starting to see the swamp. And since 2016, it's just gotten more and more clear.
So he said a few things recently, like he was stepping in it. Like he sounded like he was all for gay marriage, when he hosted the Log Cabin Republicans at Mar-a-Lago. He said something like that. And then he comes out and blames pro-lifers for the midterm debacle that was supposed to be, so he's saying these kind of things. It feels like he's stepping in it. He's stepping in it with his base. But I still think it would be the most amazing thing for him to be president again. I just really do. It's just like he's older, so he's not going to have a political career much longer afterwards. And I think someone like Carrie Lake, right? Someone like that, someone like even Marjorie Taylor Greene or even Matt Gaetz, or there's a lot of really good contenders that are firebrands, that are outspoken, that already have the mantle, that have taken on the mantle and will carry the movement forward. He's the originator of it, but Trumpism is here to stay. But him being in office again for 4 years, after what he's already seen and exposed, it would be the most amazing 4 years. So what I'm getting at here in this last minute is our nation on an irreversible decline, and there's going to be this catastrophic collapse, and we're going to rise out of the ashes, right? Because we will rise out of the ashes if we get to the ashes. That's the question. Are we going to come to ashes, or will there be a reform that prevents the complete ash heap, right? And I think DJT would be one way. If he gets elected for his second term, I think that's a sign of reformation rather than ashes. If he doesn't get elected, it's a total corruption in our electoral system, right? If he doesn't get elected, and that means we're going to ashes. I mean, and seeing. You got 20 seconds to wrap us up here.
Here's my answer to that question. If things get better, then it's better for everyone. If things get worse, then that's just my signal that God's in charge. And his son returning is coming even closer than we realize. And in that case, celebration.
And on that note, God bless you all. Good to see you, Ben.
Good night, Patriots.
I won't see you next week because we have Jeff and Mike next week, but the week after that, I'll see you. All right.